This video will serve as an introduction to framework matrices. Framework matrices are a really useful way to essentially cross-tabulate qualitative data. You'll find framework matrices are under your sources and they have their own option in navigation view here. To create a framework matrices, all we need to do is right click within the list view and go for new framework matrix. I'm going to name this one community, and before we can click OK, we need to populate the framework matrix with its data. So first of all, the rows are where we select cases. It's really important that you have cases. This won't work without them. So if I go to select, here I can open up my cases, go to people, and I'm just going to bring in all of the interview participants in this project. Where I'm navigating to right now will be different in your own project because you may have stored them separately from where they have in this project. If you've only got people, you might have just put them straight in your cases and you'll be able to tick them there. In this case, they're just in the people folder. Click OK. You'll see they all appear down the side here. Now I've got the option of bringing in some attributes about them if I wish, so I can click on select, and then under the appropriate attribute for them, in this case it's the person one, I could bring in, for example, their age group and their gender, and they'll appear there. So that's the rows of the cross-tabulated table sorted. Next up, I need to bring in my columns, and this is where we're going to bring in some of the themes in the project. So if I click on select, open up the nodes, and I'm just going to select a handful of them. I don't really want to bring in too many, otherwise this table can get quite complicated. So I'm just going to bring in community change, as after all the framework matrix was titled community. And under here as well, you'll see I'm going to bring in, under sense of community down east, I'm going to bring in local connection, local identity, and local knowledge. So I'm bringing in these 4 themes here, and they're going to be the columns of my table. If I click OK, we're going to see that this framework matrix generates, so it's appeared in list view, and then it opens up in detailed view for us. So you'll notice the rows are the cases, so these are the people in the project that I've added, and then across the top you can see the titles of all of the columns. So these are the themes: community change, local connection, local identity, and local knowledge. When I click on any of these rows, you'll notice that whatever case appears to the left is shown in this pane here. So if I scroll down, double click in Paul, you'll see everything that Paul has said appears here. If I do the same for Ken, everything in Ken's interview appears here. Those two are quite light on text in this project just because they were interviewed with their partners, I believe. So if I click on Thomas's as another example, you'll see Thomas's case appears down the side. So this enables us as a researcher to click in, and then I could type a summary if I wanted to. So in this case, I'd type a summary of what Betty said under community set change, what Betty said under local connection. Then I'd do the same for Dorothy. Then I'd do the same for Margaret, Maria, and all other participants. However, it gives us the option to do this automatically. So while I'm in a framework matrix, you'll see a new framework matrix contextual ribbon has opened at the top. So contextual ribbon is a ribbon that only appears when you're in a certain area of a program, very similar to how the table ribbon appears when you're clicked in a table in Word. So in this case, we've got the framework matrix contextual ribbon, and if I click on auto summarize, it will essentially overlap anytime the case overlaps with the theme. So as the case is everything the participant has said, basically every time the participant has said one of the themes that I have brought in, it's going to bring it into the framework matrix. You'll see the progress appears on the bottom left here, and as this green bar fills, the table will become available for me. Right, so I can see this is loaded through. It's given me a summary here, so 48 summaries have been modified. So in this example, I can see at no point did anything Betty say appear in one of these themes. That's not the computer deciding that. That means that the researcher hasn't coded any of those themes in Betty's interview, so they're empty. Once again, it's always really important to remember NVivo's not doing this for us. It's just bringing together the work that we've already done. So if we look at Dorothy's interview here, I can see there are some really good examples of this. So this is what Dorothy said about community change as allocated by the researcher. Here's what has been said about local connection. And as I scroll across, nothing on local identity, but there is something here on local knowledge. So it's a really useful way to summarize your data. It can be quite complicated to navigate it within NVivo because it has such a relatively small area of the screen. However, if I right click, you'll see I've got the option to export the matrix, and that's going to be as an NVivo file. So I'm just going to save this on my desktop and click save. And NVivo is going to create that file for me right away. As soon as that's loaded through, I can minimize NVivo, and you'll see right on my desktop, there's that community Excel file that is just created for me. And if I maximize that, this is a really easy to access table. In Excel, I can highlight these rows and make them just a little bit bigger so I can see the text within each of these areas. And I can very easily see my data and navigate my data. And it makes it a lot easier for you to see where themes have occurred against participants. This can be a really useful way for you to present your data to your supervisor as well, or your tutor, just so they can see how these themes are coalescing and what kind of things are falling within them.